Welcome to Zoe Stories. Doctor prescribed estrogen by mistake. Now I'm changing. I never thought a simple doctor's appointment would unravel everything I thought I knew about myself. Adam sat at the corner table of the small campus cafe, a nearly empty cup of black coffee before him, growing cold. Around him, the world buzzed with noise, students laughing, chatting, the clinking of dishes, and music softly spilling from the speakers above. But none of it reached him. He sat like a stone in the river of life, watching everything flow by. His fingers drummed nervously on the scratched wooden table, tapping out a rhythm no one noticed. His dark eyes scanned the crowd without focusing on anyone. At 20 years old, Adam felt like he had been invisible all his life, not in the dramatic, tragic way people sometimes describe, but in a quiet, almost fading kind of way. He was thin, almost fragile-looking, with messy brown hair that never seemed to lie flat, pale skin that hinted he didn't spend much time outdoors, and clothes that seemed to blend into the background, plain jeans and a hoodie, nothing flashy, nothing to attract attention. Adam was the kind of guy who people might say was nice, but rarely interesting. He sighed softly and looked down at the notebook in front of him, the pages filled with coding notes and half-finished assignments. Computer science was supposed to be his escape, a place where logic ruled and feelings didn't get in the way. But even here, in his structured world of algorithms and functions, Adam felt lost. He had always been shy. Not painfully shy, but enough to keep his voice low and his presence quiet. His school days were spent in the back of classrooms, avoiding eye contact, rarely volunteering answers. Social events were torture. He preferred staying home, reading or gaming, over forced small talk and awkward conversations. His mother often worried. "You need to come out of your shell," she'd say.
"You're a good boy, Adam.
"People would like you if you just tried." But Adam wasn't sure what trying meant. To him, the shell was safe, a protective barrier against rejection, embarrassment, or worse, invisibility. He didn't have a girlfriend. Not because he never wanted one, but because he could never find the courage to ask. He watched other guys joke and flirt with ease, wondering why it all felt so distant for him. The few friends he had were mostly online, faceless voices who only knew the parts of him he chose to share. Real life was different. He was awkward, uncertain, unsure of himself. This morning, Adam had forced himself to leave his apartment to visit the local clinic. A rash had appeared on his arm weeks ago, red and itchy, and growing worse. He was too embarrassed to mention it to anyone, but finally, the discomfort pushed him to see a doctor. The clinic was sterile and cold, filled with the faint smell of antiseptic and the murmur of other patients. The waiting room was crowded with coughs and restless feet. When his name was called, Adam followed the nurse into a small examination room. The doctor, a woman in her early 40s with sharp glasses and a no-nonsense attitude, entered quickly and began the checkup with brisk efficiency. After a brief examination, she muttered something into her tablet and printed a prescription. "Take these daily," she said without much explanation, placing a small white bottle on the counter. Adam took the bottle, eyes flickering briefly to the label before looking away. The pills were round, pinkish, unfamiliar. He trusted the doctor.
There was no reason not to.
Outside, the sun was bright but didn't warm him. He stuffed the pill bottle into his backpack and walked slowly back to the bus stop, his mind drifting. The routine of his life, dull, safe, predictable, suddenly felt fragile, like a glass about to shatter. He didn't know then that this tiny bottle held the key to a secret, a transformation that would shake his entire existence. That evening, Adam sat in his small bedroom, the glow of his laptop the only light. His mother was downstairs, humming in the kitchen. The pill bottle sat on his desk unopened. His fingers hovered over it, then he swallowed the first pill, dry and hesitant. The taste was faint, almost sweet. As he lay on his bed later, the night stretching endlessly, Adam felt a strange sensation, a flutter deep inside, like the first tremors before an earthquake. His heart beat unevenly, thoughts swirling with unease. He tried to push the feelings away, but they lingered. The next day, Rachel came by. She was his cousin, 2 years older, confident, and impossibly magnetic. Where Adam was soft and quiet, Rachel was bold and fiery. She noticed right away something was different. The way Adam's eyes darted away when she looked at him, the subtle softness in his voice, almost imperceptible but there. "You okay, Adam?" she teased, flashing a knowing smile. "You seem different." Adam shrugged, trying to hide the pills in his backpack. "Just tired, I guess." Rachel's smile deepened, and with a playful push, she said, "Maybe you just need to loosen up. Ever thought about trying something new?" That night, Adam caught his reflection in the mirror. He blinked, confused. His skin looked softer, almost glowing. His lips seemed fuller, his eyes wider. For a fleeting moment, he didn't recognize the person staring back. Fear, excitement, and something else, curiosity, collided inside him. He touched his face gently, whispering to himself, Who am I becoming?" Sometimes, life's biggest changes come from the smallest mistakes. Adam stared down at the small white bottle in his hand, the label barely legible in the dim light of his bedroom. He had taken the first pill that morning, a quiet act he barely noticed, but now he was filled with a creeping unease. The doctor had seemed so sure, so casual, handing him the prescription like it was nothing more than vitamins. But the bottle didn't say vitamins. It said something else entirely. Estradiol. The word looked strange, foreign. Adam had never heard of it before. Days passed, and Adam's life continued as usual, except for the secret pills he swallowed every morning. He hid the bottle deep inside his drawer, afraid that his mother or friends would ask questions he didn't want to answer. He hadn't researched the medicine. At first, he told himself it was some kind of hormone to help his skin or mood, a side treatment for his rash, but deep down a part of him felt that something was wrong. His body began to change in small, almost unnoticeable ways. His skin softened, losing the slight roughness it once had. His muscles felt less tense, his moods swayed unpredictably between irritability and sudden bursts of laughter. A strange tenderness blossomed beneath his chest, confusing and frightening him. One afternoon, Adam sat in the university library, his head buried in textbooks, when his phone vibrated. It was a call from the clinic. His heart pounded as he answered. "Hello, Adam? This is Nurse Patel from the clinic. I'm calling to clarify something about your recent prescription." Adam's throat went dry. "Yes. There's been a mix-up," she said quickly, apologizing profusely. "The medication prescribed to you is meant for another patient, a hormone therapy medication called estrogen."
You were given it by mistake.
Adam's mind spun.
What?
I don't understand." "We're very sorry," she continued. "Please stop taking the medication immediately and come in for a follow-up." Adam ended the call trembling. The word estrogen echoed in his ears like a foreign language. Hormones? For him? He sat frozen, staring at the pill bottle as if it might explain itself. How could the doctor make such a mistake? How long had he been taking these pills? Fear crept in. What if the changes were irreversible? What if he was losing control over his own body? That evening, Rachel arrived at his door. She seemed to sense the tension in the air. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said with a mischievous grin. Adam hesitated, then blurted out everything. The doctor's mistake, the call, the pills. Rachel listened quietly, then laughed softly. "Well, this explains a lot," she said, her eyes gleaming. "What do you mean?" "I notice the changes. The softness in your voice, the way you're moving differently. Honestly, Adam, I think you're hiding this from yourself." Rachel's tone shifted, no longer playful but commanding. "Maybe it's time you embrace this. Try dressing like a girl.
See what it feels like. Just for me."
Adam recoiled. "No, that's crazy. I can't." She stepped closer, voice low but firm. "Trust me, it's not just about the pills. You're on a path now, whether you like it or not. I can help you." That night, alone in his room, Adam stared at the mirror. The face looking back was familiar, yet different. The pills, the changes, Rachel's words, all collided inside him like a storm.
Who am I?
He wondered. The question echoed deeper than ever before. The changes were subtle at first, like whispers in the wind, but soon, they roared inside me, impossible to ignore. Adam's days after the phone call passed in a blur of confusion and quiet fear. The pill bottle sat untouched in his drawer, but his body betrayed him with small, undeniable signs. His skin, once rough and pale, now felt smoother, softer, almost like velvet beneath his fingertips. He would catch himself staring at his arms, amazed and scared at the delicate texture. His chest was tender, a strange, unfamiliar sensation blossoming there like a secret he could barely admit to himself. He avoided looking too closely, afraid to confirm what his body was telling him. His voice, too, was shifting. Sometimes when he spoke, it caught in a strange way, higher and lighter than before. The change was subtle, but to him, it sounded like a stranger speaking through his lips. Adam tried to hide these changes from his mother, who noticed only his increasingly quiet demeanor. He wore loose, baggy clothes to mask the softening contours of his body. The mirror became both a friend and an enemy. He would study his reflection for hours, searching for signs that this nightmare might reverse. Rachel called frequently, her voice playful but probing. "You're changing, Adam. I can see it. How does it feel?" Adam swallowed the lump in his throat. "I don't know." Rachel laughed softly. "Don't worry. I think you're going to like who you're becoming." One afternoon, Rachel came to visit unannounced, catching Adam off guard. She smirked when she noticed his nervousness. "You're avoiding me," she teased. "Come on, it's just me." Adam shifted uncomfortably. She walked over, peering at him with sharp, amused eyes. "You've changed," she said quietly, almost reverently. "Your skin glows. Your hair is softer. You look different." Adam flushed, suddenly aware of the blush rising on his cheeks. Rachel's smile turned mischievous. "Want to try something?" Adam's heart pounded. He shook his head, but Rachel had already disappeared into her bag, pulling out a soft, floral blouse and a skirt. "Try this," she said, holding the clothes out. Adam's breath hitched as he took the clothes. The fabric was soft, fragrant with a scent of Rachel's perfume. His fingers trembled as he touched the lace trim and the delicate stitching. "Just for a little while," Rachel said soothingly. "No one else will see." Reluctantly, Adam retreated to his room. He slipped out of his clothes and into the unfamiliar fabric. The blouse felt strange against his skin, cooler, lighter, more delicate. He looked at himself in the mirror. The clothes softened his silhouette, giving him curves he'd never had. His reflection seemed almost like someone else, a prettier, softer version of himself. Rachel returned with a small makeup kit, mascara, lipstick, blush. She gently guided Adam's hands as they touched his face. The brushes were cold but comforting, and for the first time, Adam felt the strange thrill of being cared for so intimately. His eyes looked bigger, his lips fuller, his face glowing with a new light. He barely recognized the girl staring back at him from the mirror. As the evening wore on, Adam's emotions tangled in knots. Shame clashed with curiosity, fear wrestled with excitement. He felt exposed and vulnerable, yet the experience also awakened something deep inside him. Rachel sat nearby, watching him with a smile, part tenderness, part control. "You look beautiful," she whispered. Adam's heart pounded. The word felt strange on his ears, but comforting too. Sometimes the people we trust the most hold the keys to our deepest transformations, whether we want them to or not. Adam's heart thudded loudly in his chest as Rachel stood in his small, cluttered bedroom, arms crossed and eyes sharp with a mix of amusement and determination. The floral blouse and skirt he had worn the night before still clung to his skin like a secret he wasn't sure he was ready to keep. Rachel's smile wasn't the carefree teasing of before. Now, it held an edge, a quiet power that sent shivers down his spine. "Adam," she said softly, stepping closer, "you can't keep hiding who you're becoming." He swallowed hard, feeling the walls of his safe, predictable world start to crumble. His reflection in the mirror caught his eye, softer eyes, fuller lips, the subtle curve of his hips now impossible to deny. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm here to help," Rachel's eyes softened for a moment, but her voice remained firm. I know this is hard, Adam. But you're stronger than you think. This change, it's happening whether you want it or not. The estrogen in your body is already doing its work. Adam looked away, feeling a rush of heat flood his cheeks. But dressing like this, acting like this, that's not me. Rachel shook her head gently. That's what you think. But maybe you're finally becoming who you really are. You don't have to be scared. She reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. Let me show you. Just trust me. Adam's resistance wavered under her steady gaze. He nodded slowly, barely able to speak. Rachel smiled triumphantly.
Good.
Tomorrow we start fresh. You'll dress up again, but this time with purpose. Rachel's eyes locked onto Adam's, unwavering. Listen, Adam, this isn't optional anymore, she said softly but firmly. You need to let go of the past. The old you won't survive this. Adam's breath hitched. I don't know if I can do that. Rachel smiled, half cruel, half caring. You don't have to choose. I will choose for you. She reached into her bag again, pulling out a set of feminine clothes, makeup, and even a small box of delicate lingerie. These aren't just clothes, she said, holding them up. They're your new armor. Adam's hands trembled as he took the items. Fear and curiosity wrestled inside him. Rachel stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Put them on.
Now.
Adam backed into his room, locking the door behind him. He pulled out the blouse and skirt, running his fingers over the soft fabric. His heart raced with panic and anticipation. He hesitated, then began to undress, peeling off his familiar, worn clothes. The blouse slipped over his head, cool and gentle against his skin. The skirt hugged his hips, a strange but thrilling sensation. Rachel's voice echoed from outside. Good. Now the makeup. Adam opened the makeup kit, unsure where to start. The brushes felt strange but comforting. As he applied blush, mascara, and lipstick, he felt his reflection shift. No longer a shy boy, but a hesitant girl beginning to bloom. After dressing and makeup, Adam faced the mirror, trembling. I don't know who this is, he whispered, voice trembling. Rachel entered quietly, wrapping an arm around his shoulder. She's you, maybe the real you. Tears welled up in Adam's eyes. I'm scared. I know, Rachel said softly. But I'm here. You're not alone. Rachel insisted on taking Adam out, a short walk to a nearby cafe. Adam's steps faltered as he navigated the unfamiliar heels. Passers-by glanced, some smiling, others whispering. His cheeks burned with embarrassment and something strange, a flicker of excitement. Rachel squeezed his hand, whispering, You're doing great. By the time they returned, Adam's mind swirled with conflicting emotions, shame, curiosity, confusion, and an undeniable new sensation of freedom. Sometimes the people we trust the most hold the keys to our deepest transformations, whether we want them to or not. Adam sat stiffly on the edge of his bed, the weight of Rachel's presence filling the small room like a storm about to break. She stood by the doorway, arms crossed, eyes sharp and unwavering, a strange mix of amusement and command dancing in her gaze. The floral blouse and skirt he had worn the night before were folded neatly on the chair, still fragrant with Rachel's perfume. The memory of slipping into those soft fabrics was fresh, unfamiliar, yet strangely intimate, like stepping into someone else's skin. Rachel's voice cut through the silence, soft but firm. Adam, you can't keep hiding who you're becoming. Adam swallowed hard, his heart pounding so loudly it seemed to fill the entire room. His gaze flicked to the mirror hanging on the opposite wall, a reflection that seemed both foreign and familiar stared back at him. The softness in his eyes, the fuller lips, the subtle curve of his hips, signs of the slow transformation he barely understood. You don't have to be afraid anymore, Rachel continued, stepping closer. I'm here to help. Adam wanted to protest, to say he was still the same person, the shy, uncertain boy who never wanted any of this. But the words caught in his throat, powerless against the truth glowing quietly in his reflection. Inner thoughts. Am I really changing? Am I losing myself? Or finally becoming who I was meant to be? Rachel reached out, her hand warm as she took his. Trust me, you're stronger than you know. The room felt smaller somehow, charged with unspoken promises and silent power. Rachel's eyes softened for a brief moment before sharpening again with determination. I know this is hard, Adam, but you're not the same boy you were a week ago. The pills are working. Adam's breath hitched. But dressing like this, acting like this, it's not me. Rachel shook her head slowly, a gentle but firm smile on her lips. That's what you think. But maybe you're finally becoming who you really are. She squeezed his hand gently. You don't have to be scared. I'll help you every step of the way. Her words felt like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. Adam nodded, a mix of fear and relief flooding him. Okay, I'll try. Rachel's smile grew brighter, but a flicker of something unreadable passed through her eyes.
Good.
Tomorrow, we start fresh. You'll dress up again, this time with purpose. The next morning, Adam woke to a nervous flutter in his stomach. The memory of Rachel's words echoed in his mind. With purpose. He hesitated as he stood in front of his closet, his fingers grazing the fabric of the blouse and skirt Rachel had brought. The softness made his skin tingle, a strange but alluring sensation. His phone buzzed, a message from Rachel. Be ready by noon. I'll pick you up. Adam swallowed, heart pounding. He wasn't sure what he was ready for, but somehow he knew he had no choice. When Rachel arrived, she was dressed impeccably, radiating confidence. She smiled warmly, but her eyes held a commanding fire. Come on, she said, taking his hand and leading him out. Back in his room, Rachel pulled out a carefully packed bag filled with feminine clothes, makeup, and accessories. These aren't just clothes, she said, holding up a delicate blouse trimmed with lace. They're your new armor. Adam's hands trembled as he took the garments, a strange mixture of dread and anticipation churning inside. He closed the door and began undressing, the cool air brushing over his skin as he slipped out of familiar clothes. The blouse slid over his head, soft and smooth against his skin. The skirt hugged his hips, emphasizing curves he'd never noticed before. He caught his breath, staring at his reflection as the unfamiliar silhouette looked back. Rachel's voice called softly from outside, Now makeup. Adam opened the makeup kit Rachel had left on his dresser. The brushes and colors were intimidating, but Rachel's earlier words echoed. I'll help you every step of the way. He tentatively applied blush to his cheeks, the cold brush awakening new sensations. He traced the curve of his eyes with eyeliner, the sharp lines transforming his gaze into something softer, deeper. Rachel's words replayed in his mind, each one a thread weaving him closer to a new identity. When he finally looked in the mirror, the face was transformed, softer lips, wider eyes framed by dark lashes, skin glowing with subtle highlights. The girl in the reflection was still him, but also not him. Rachel returned quietly, her smile a mixture of pride and control. You look beautiful, she whispered. Adam's throat tightened. The word felt strange, foreign, yet comforting. Tears welled in his eyes as emotions overwhelmed him. Shame, confusion, but also a fragile spark of something new. Rachel wrapped an arm around him gently. I know this is hard, but I promise you're not alone. The moment was fragile, balanced on the edge of fear and hope. Rachel insisted they go out. The thought terrified Adam, but he knew resistance was futile. Walking was a challenge. The unfamiliar heels made every step precarious. People's glances burned, some curious, some amused. A whispered comment from a passerby made Adam freeze, cheeks aflame with humiliation. Rachel squeezed his hand reassuringly. You're doing amazing. The walk felt like crossing a bridge into an unknown world, one filled with fear, but also a strange, thrilling freedom. By the time they returned, Adam was exhausted, his mind a tangle of conflicting emotions, shame, excitement, confusion, and a yearning he barely understood. The next day, Rachel arrived at Adam's apartment with a determined smile and a carefully packed bag. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room. Adam's heart hammered in his chest. Today felt like a turning point, a moment he wasn't sure he wanted but couldn't avoid. Rachel spread out a selection of clothes on the bed, delicate blouses, skirts, tights, and a few pairs of shoes. The fabrics were soft and inviting, a world away from Adam's usual worn-out t-shirts and jeans. She handed him a floral dress, its skirt fluttering lightly in the breeze from the open window. "Try this," she said, her voice gentle but insistent. Adam's hands trembled as he took the dress. The material was smooth, almost silky against his skin. He hesitated before slipping it over his head, the fabric sliding down his arms and settling around his body. The sensation was strange, soft and cool, where his skin expected roughness and warmth. He looked in the mirror, hardly recognizing the figure that gazed back. The dress hugged his shoulders and waist in a way that accentuated new curves forming on his body. The girl in the reflection was tentative, uncertain, but undeniably present. Inner thoughts. Who is she? Am I becoming her? Rachel approached quietly, carrying a small makeup kit. "You look beautiful," she said, almost like a spell. Adam felt a rush of heat, unsure whether it was embarrassment or something else. "Let me help," Rachel offered, sitting beside him. She pulled out brushes and powders, carefully applying makeup with a practiced hand. The cool brushes tickled as they traced his cheekbones, the colors transforming his face into something softer, more radiant. Rachel's hands were gentle but confident as she worked the makeup brushes across Adam's face. She applied a light foundation first, evening out his skin tone and softening the rough edges that had always made him feel self-conscious. Adam closed his eyes briefly, letting the unfamiliar sensations wash over him. The cool touch of the brush, the subtle scent of the makeup, and Rachel's quiet encouragement formed a strange kind of comfort. When she reached for the blush, Adam tensed. The thought of adding color to his cheeks was terrifying. It made him feel exposed, like the whole world could see every secret he tried to hide. But Rachel smiled softly. "It's just a little color. It brings out your natural beauty." Adam nodded slowly, trusting her. With each stroke, his reflection transformed. His cheekbones appeared higher, his face more delicate. The eyeliner framed his eyes, making them look wider and more expressive, while a soft shade of lipstick colored his lips a gentle pink. When Rachel finally handed him the small mirror, Adam studied himself closely. The boy he had always been was fading into a new image, a girl whose eyes shimmered with uncertainty and hope. Inner thoughts. Is this really me? Or am I becoming someone else? Rachel stood and extended her hand. "Come with me." Outside, the world looked different through the eyes of his new reflection. The breeze teased the hem of his dress, and the slight sway of his hips felt foreign yet strangely natural. Rachel led him through the quiet streets to a nearby cafe, the heels clicking softly on the pavement. Each step was a struggle. Unfamiliar muscles worked to keep balance and grace. People glanced, some curious, some indifferent. Adam felt their eyes burning into him and wanted to disappear, but Rachel's steady grip reassured him. Inside the cafe, Rachel chose a secluded corner. Adam sat stiffly, cheeks flushed, heart pounding. Rachel smiled gently. "You're doing great." Adam's mind raced, a storm of emotions swirling inside. Embarrassment, fear, excitement, and a strange thrill he couldn't name. The air inside the cafe was warm and filled with the soft murmur of quiet conversations and the clinking of cups. Adam sat across from Rachel, feeling like a stranger in his own skin. The dress felt delicate against his legs, and the unfamiliar weight of the makeup on his face made him hyper-aware of every movement. Rachel sipped her coffee and smiled at him encouragingly. "Look at you. You're beautiful, Adam. More than you realize." Adam's throat tightened. The word beautiful was foreign and somehow thrilling. For a brief moment, he let himself believe it, but then the doubt surged back, fierce and unrelenting. What if I'm not really like this? What if it's just the pills? What if it's not me at all? Rachel reached out, her hand warm on his. "Who you were is still inside you. But maybe who you are becoming is even better. Inner thoughts. Better? Or lost? Adam stared down at the hem of his skirt, twisting the fabric nervously. The soft sway of the dress with each movement felt both fragile and empowering. Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and looked back at Adam. We could enter you in that local beauty contest next week. It's just for fun. Adam nearly choked. A beauty contest? No way. Rachel laughed. Come on, it'll be good for you. Think of it as a challenge. The idea terrified and fascinated him in equal measure. Later that evening, Adam stood alone before his bedroom mirror. The reflection was undeniable: soft eyes, delicate features, and the lingering glow of makeup. He touched his face lightly, the contours unfamiliar yet intimate. "Who am I now?" he whispered. The answer didn't come. Adam's room was dimly lit by the soft glow of his bedside lamp as he stood before the mirror once more. His hands trembled slightly as he reached up to touch his cheeks, now adorned with the soft blush Rachel had applied earlier. His lips, tinted with gentle pink, parted slightly as he examined every detail of his transformed face. The eyes staring back were wide and shimmering, framed by thick lashes that gave them an almost doe-like innocence. His jawline seemed softer, his features smoother, the face of someone on the cusp of becoming someone new. He swallowed hard, heart pounding in his chest. A wave of conflicting emotions crashed over him: fear, curiosity, shame, and, oddly enough, a budding sense of acceptance. Is this who I really am? The thought echoed, terrifying and thrilling all at once. He took a shaky breath and stepped back, letting his eyes roam over the curve of his hips, the gentle swell of his chest beneath the blouse. The dress he had worn earlier, folded neatly on his chair, called to him like a promise of a new life. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a message from Rachel. "You're doing amazing. Tomorrow we go out again, bigger steps. Trust me." Adam stared at the screen, feeling both excitement and dread. The journey had only just begun, and already, the path seemed both impossible and irresistible. He slipped off the blouse and skirt, changing back into his usual clothes, but the sensation of the dress lingered on his skin, a gentle reminder of the person he was becoming. Unable to sleep, Adam sat on the edge of his bed, the silence of the room wrapping around him like a cocoon. He picked up his phone and hesitated before calling his closest online friend, Leo. "Hey," Leo answered, voice warm and familiar. Adam hesitated, then began to share everything: the doctor's mistake, the pills, Rachel's control, the dress, the makeup, the confusion swirling inside him. Leo listened patiently, offering no judgment, only support. "Sounds like a lot," Leo said finally. "But maybe this is your real self coming out." Adam wasn't sure, but hearing those words, spoken so simply, felt like a lifeline. "The moment I stepped outside, I realized there was no going back. The world was watching, and so was I." The morning sun spilled through Adam's bedroom window, casting golden light over the quiet room. He lay awake, heart thumping in his chest, anticipation and dread tangled inside him like a storm. Today was different. Rachel had promised this day would mark a new chapter, his first real venture into the world dressed as the girl he was becoming. The dress from yesterday lay folded neatly on his chair, soft and inviting. The thought of putting it on again filled him with a strange mix of fear and excitement. Internal monologue. What if people stare? What if they laugh? But what if they see me? Really see me? Rachel arrived promptly, her smile warm and encouraging, but her eyes sharp and expectant. "Ready?" she asked, handing him the dress and a small makeup bag. Adam nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. In the quiet of his room, he began the transformation ritual, slipping into the dress, feeling the soft fabric hug his curves, the makeup painting his face into a mask of delicate beauty. The familiar touch of the lipstick sent a shiver down his spine, the scent of the powder lingering in the air like a promise. The soft rustle of fabric, the delicate brush of the makeup brushes, the cool glass of the mirror reflecting back a stranger, and yet, somehow, himself. Rachel stood by quietly, offering gentle guidance and the occasional smile of approval. When Adam finally looked in the mirror, he barely recognized the girl who stared back, yet a small spark of acceptance glowed within him. Adam's hands trembled slightly as he laced up the delicate heels Rachel had picked out. The unfamiliar weight of the shoes felt heavy but also strangely empowering, grounding him in a new reality. He took a tentative step forward, then another, each one awkward but slowly gaining confidence. The soft click of heels against the floor echoed through the room. Rachel watched him carefully, her eyes shining with pride and something deeper, a mix of control and affection. "Perfect," she said softly. Outside, the world awaited with its usual noise and bustle. Rachel took Adam's hand, steadying him as they stepped into the street. The sunlight warmed his skin, and the slight breeze teased the hem of his dress. The sounds of traffic, chatter, and footsteps surrounded them, making Adam hyper-aware of every sensation. Internal conflict. Every glance feels like a spotlight. Every whisper a judgment. Can I really do this? People did notice. Some turned to stare, their expressions ranging from surprise to curiosity. A few smiled, some whispered to their companions. Adam's cheeks burned with embarrassment, but Rachel's firm grip reassured him. "You're doing great," she whispered. They walked slowly to a nearby cafe, Rachel guiding him through the crowd with ease. Adam felt exposed but also strangely alive. Inside, the cafe was warm and inviting. They found a quiet corner where Adam could catch his breath. Sensory details. The rich aroma of coffee filled the air, mingling with the soft murmur of conversations and the clinking of cups. The warm light spilled across Adam's face, highlighting the delicate makeup and soft blush on his cheeks. Rachel smiled, her gaze steady and encouraging.
"See?
You're more beautiful than you know." Adam's heart fluttered. The word echoed softly in his mind. Beautiful. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't so impossible to accept. Adam sat quietly in the cafe corner, the warmth of the room contrasting sharply with the cold storm raging inside him. His fingers nervously twisted the hem of his skirt as Rachel sipped her coffee, her eyes never leaving his face. "Tell me," she said softly, "how do you feel?" Adam hesitated. The truth was a tangled mess. Scared, he admitted finally. But also something else. "Like I'm waking up." Rachel nodded knowingly. "That's the fear and hope mixing inside you. It's normal." She reached across the table and took his hand. The touch was grounding, a reminder that he wasn't alone. Suddenly, a voice from across the room broke the fragile calm. "Is that Adam?" Adam's head snapped up. A young man sat nearby, eyes wide with shock. Rachel squeezed Adam's hand. "Ignore him," she whispered. But the damage was done. Adam's heart hammered as the stranger's gaze pierced through the fragile new identity he was trying to build. Internal monologue. How much of my old life can I keep? How much must I let go? The stranger approached, hesitance and curiosity mixing in his expression. "Adam? Is that really you?" he asked quietly. Adam felt his breath catch in his throat. The question was simple, but the answer was anything but. Rachel stood, placing herself subtly between them. "Yes, it's him. He's changing, becoming who he needs to be." The stranger looked from Rachel to Adam, uncertain but slowly understanding. He nodded slowly and stepped back. Once the stranger was gone, Adam felt the walls crumble. Tears spilled down his cheeks as the overwhelming emotions surged forth. Rachel held him gently, whispering soothing words. "It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel." Every privilege I once took for granted was slipping away like sand through my fingers, leaving me exposed in a world that suddenly demanded something entirely new. The following days felt like a whirlwind of change. Adam woke each morning to find his body feeling softer, more fragile. The subtle curves that had been budding now seemed more pronounced. His voice, once steady and familiar, cracked more frequently, slipping into a higher, lighter tone that made him flinch. His reflection in the mirror no longer held the confident young man he remembered. Instead, the girl gazing back at him was unfamiliar, delicate, and increasingly real. Outside his home, the world's response shifted as well. Friends who once greeted him with casual ease now looked at him differently. Their jokes, once harmless, now felt like subtle jabs. Doors that had opened freely before now closed with hesitation. At school and around town, Adam found himself struggling with simple interactions. Where before he could assert himself with quiet confidence, now his words stumbled, his presence diminished. The easy camaraderie of his former life was slipping away, replaced by an uncomfortable invisibility. Rachel watched these changes with a sharp eye. Her tone was a mixture of sweetness and steel. "Adam, you're becoming someone new," she said one evening, tracing a finger along his jawline. "You have to let go of the past, it won't serve you anymore." Adam nodded, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. "I'm scared." Rachel smiled gently but firmly. "I know, but that's why I'm here." The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Adam felt more estranged from his former self. The privileges he once took for granted slipped away, layer by layer. Where once his opinions were valued, now they were questioned or ignored. Conversations that had flowed naturally before now felt like minefields, each word weighed and doubted. One afternoon, while walking through the busy school hallways dressed in Rachel's chosen feminine style, Adam felt the sting of whispered conversations. Girls whispered behind their hands, casting sideways glances. Boys who once nodded in greeting now averted their eyes or smirked. A voice sneered, "Look who's playing dress-up." Adam's cheeks burned with humiliation. He wanted to disappear, to escape this new, uncharted world. Simple things, like walking with confidence, speaking loudly, or being taken seriously, became impossible. Even his own voice betrayed him. It cracked unexpectedly during class presentations, drawing unwanted attention. The world seemed to demand that he fit a new mold, one he wasn't sure he wanted or could fill. Rachel's presence was constant, sometimes soothing, sometimes controlling. "Let go, Adam," she whispered one night as she helped him into a new dress. "You're not a boy anymore. You're becoming a woman, and that means new rules." Adam looked at her, the mix of tenderness and dominance confusing him. "I don't know if I want this," he confessed. Rachel's eyes softened, but her grip on his hand tightened. "You don't have a choice." Adam's world had shifted beneath his feet, and the ground felt slippery and uncertain. Every familiar corner of his life seemed tinted with the new reality Rachel was shaping, one where he was no longer the boy he once was. He remembered the subtle changes first, a friend hesitating before speaking to him, a teacher addressing him in a softer tone, the way people's eyes lingered longer on his body than before. One evening, Rachel took him out to a social gathering, a small party filled with people who had heard of his transformation. Adam felt exposed as eyes traced his every move. The freedom he once took for granted, the space to be himself without question, was gone. Instead, every smile felt weighted with judgment, every glance a test. Rachel introduced him as her beautiful friend, and Adam felt his cheeks burn. The words "friend" and "beautiful" felt foreign but strangely intoxicating. As the night wore on, Adam found himself listening more than speaking, learning the unspoken rules of this new world. He watched as women moved with grace, voices soft but commanding. He tried to mimic their posture, their gestures, but it felt like walking a tightrope. Back home, Adam lay awake, wrestling with his identity. Am I losing myself? Or finding someone new? The question haunted him, echoing in the quiet of the night. Days passed, and Adam's old life felt more distant. His voice had softened, and sometimes it even betrayed him, cracking or slipping into a higher pitch at the worst moments. At school, he noticed the shift keenly. Teachers who once called on him confidently now spoke more gently, often ignoring him in group discussions. His male friends drifted away, replaced by curious glances or outright avoidance. Rachel's words echoed in his mind. "You're not a boy anymore. You're becoming a woman, and that means new rules." He wanted to resist, but every attempt felt futile. One afternoon, Adam was called out in class when his voice cracked loudly during a presentation. The room filled with stifled giggles. His face burned red as embarrassment washed over him like a tide. Rachel's presence at the back of the room was both a shield and a reminder. She was watching, judging, controlling. That evening, Rachel sat beside him, her tone calm but unyielding. "You have to accept it," she said, tracing patterns on his arm. "You're becoming her. The boy you were is gone." Adam's chest tightened. "But I'm scared." Rachel smiled softly. "That's why you need me." The weeks blended into each other, and Adam felt the world around him shifting in ways he never expected. The privileges he once took for granted, being heard, respected, simply existing as himself, were slipping through his fingers. School was no longer a place of comfort. The familiar hallways now echoed with whispers, laughter, and sometimes outright mockery. He found himself shrinking in the shadows, avoiding eye contact, desperate to blend in. His classmates, both friends and strangers, treated him differently. The casual camaraderie he enjoyed was replaced with tentative glances and forced smiles. Boys who had once laughed with him now snickered behind his back. Girls eyed him with curiosity or judgment. One afternoon, during a class discussion, Adam's voice cracked sharply. The room fell silent for a heartbeat before whispers spread like wildfire. He felt every pair of eyes on him, and the heat of embarrassment flushed his cheeks. Rachel's presence at the back of the classroom was a double-edged sword, comforting yet suffocating. Her gaze was steady, almost possessive, reminding him that she was both his savior and captor in this new reality. That night, Rachel's voice was soft but firm as she sat beside him. "You have to let go," she said, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "The boy you were is gone. This is who you're becoming." Adam's heart ached with confusion and fear. "I don't know if I can." She smiled, a mixture of tenderness and control. "You don't have a choice. But I promise I'm here." Days stretched on, each one blurring into the next, marked by subtle changes that seemed small but carried the weight of a lifetime. Adam's body continued to soften. The estrogen was doing its work quietly, relentlessly. The mirror showed fewer signs of the boy he had been, replaced instead by a delicate, vulnerable girl struggling to emerge. School became a battlefield of small humiliations. One afternoon, as Adam attempted to answer a question in class, his voice faltered and cracked, the sound echoing painfully in the silent room. Whispers spread quickly, and a few snickers pierced his skin like tiny needles. He wished he could vanish, disappear into the floor. But Rachel's watchful presence was like a tether, both comforting and suffocating. That night, Adam sat on his bed, tears streaming down his face. The fear, the shame, and the loss overwhelmed him. Rachel entered quietly, kneeling beside him. She wrapped her arms around him, holding him tightly. "I know it hurts," she whispered, "but this is who you're meant to be. Trust me." Adam buried his face in her shoulder, the lines between comfort and control blurring. In the quiet darkness, a battle raged within him. Was this transformation a cage or a liberation? Was Rachel a savior or a captor? The answers weren't clear. The nights grew longer, and Adam found himself caught between two worlds, the fading past and an uncertain future. His reflection had become a battleground, the face in the mirror both familiar and foreign. Rachel's influence deepened. Her control was a mix of gentle coaxing and firm insistence, guiding Adam through the difficult and sometimes humiliating shifts that came with his new reality. One day, Rachel took him shopping. They entered a crowded mall, and Adam's heels clicked sharply on the marble floors. Eyes followed him everywhere, whispers trailing behind like shadows. In a clothing store, a group of teenagers recognized him. Their laughter was loud and cruel. "Hey, isn't it the guy who dresses like a girl now?" one sneered. Adam's face burned with shame. He looked to Rachel, who stood tall and unshaken. She whispered, "Ignore them. You're stronger than their words." That night, as Adam lay exhausted, Rachel revealed her true feelings. She confessed her reasons, a twisted mix of revenge, control, and an unexpected tenderness. "I wanted to see you break," she admitted softly. But I also want you to become someone beautiful. Adam was torn, unsure whether to hate or trust her. Despite everything, a small part of Adam began to accept the change. He found moments of joy, the gentle compliment of, "You're so pretty," the softness of a dress against his skin. But the scars of his lost privileges ran deep. When the lines between who I was and who I was becoming blurred completely, I realized I had reached the breaking point, and nothing would ever be the same again. The days blurred into a haze of routine and tension. Adam's life felt like it was unraveling at the seams. His reflection in the mirror had transformed beyond recognition. Soft curves replaced his sharp angles, his voice now a sweet, unfamiliar melody. Yet, inside, the storm raged. Rachel's presence was ever-present, both a shield and a shackle. She dictated his clothes, his makeup, his every movement. Her sweet smile often hit a sharper edge. One evening, she looked at him with piercing eyes and said, "You're mine now, Adam. This is who you're meant to be." That night, alone in his room, the walls closed in. Tears flowed freely as Adam wrestled with the loss of his old self. "Who am I?" he whispered into the darkness. The question had no answer, only an echo. Adam sat on the edge of his bed, the soft glow of the bedside lamp casting long shadows across the room. His hands trembled as he clutched the hem of his blouse, the fabric now feeling like a second skin, both comforting and confining. Memories of who he once was flickered through his mind, a boy who loved skateboarding, late-night video games, and the simple freedom of being unseen. Now, every glance, every step felt scrutinized, his identity a fragile thread stretched thin. "You belong to me now," Rachel's voice echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of the control she wielded. The line between affection and domination blurred dangerously. Outside, the world was a spotlight. Every stare burned like fire, every whisper felt like a verdict. One afternoon, as Adam walked through a crowded park, a group of teenagers spotted him. "Hey, look at the sissy," one jeered. Adam's face flushed crimson, heart pounding in shame and fear. Just when the humiliation seemed unbearable, a young man approached. "You're beautiful," he said softly. "Don't listen to them." The words pierced Adam's defenses, planting a seed of hope. That moment in the park lingered in Adam's mind long after the stranger had walked away. The kindness in the young man's eyes contrasted sharply with the cruelty he'd endured. For a fleeting second, Adam felt seen, not as a joke, not as a project, but as someone worthy. But doubt returned like a dark cloud. Was this new version of himself real, or just a mask forced upon him? The question gnawed at his soul. Rachel's control grew tighter. She oscillated between tender encouragement and ironclad dominance. "Let go of your fears," she whispered one night as she smoothed his hair. "You're more beautiful than you know." Yet just as easily, she could snap, reminding him of the price of resistance. Alone, Adam stood before the mirror, his reflection a stranger wearing his face. He traced the delicate curves of his cheeks, the soft fullness of his lips, the shimmer of makeup that highlighted every detail. "Who am I now?" he whispered, voice trembling. No answer came. The days that followed were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Adam felt himself slipping further away from the boy he once was, yet parts of that old self clung stubbornly beneath the surface. Rachel's presence was constant, her influence both a balm and a chain. She guided him through the rituals of femininity, applying makeup with careful precision, teaching him to walk with grace, to speak with softness. But with each lesson came the quiet reminder, there was no going back. At a small gathering Rachel arranged, Adam found himself accepted as a girl for the first time. The compliments flowed. "You're so pretty. You look amazing." A strange warmth bloomed inside him at those words, a fragile hope. Yet, even in this acceptance, fear lingered. The past was never far behind, and the threat of exposure haunted him. That night, Adam lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The walls of his room felt like a cage. He longed for freedom, for the familiar comfort of his old life, but the new reality was undeniable. "Who am I now?" The question echoed endlessly, unanswered. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains as Adam sat by the window, the distant hum of the city below a reminder of a world that felt increasingly alien. He traced the contours of his face in the mirror, now so unfamiliar, the soft glow of blush, the delicate curve of his lips painted a gentle pink. Each detail was a small victory and a quiet defeat. Rachel's words echoed in his mind, a constant refrain. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. The weight of transformation settled heavily on Adam's shoulders. Friends from his past seemed like strangers now. Invitations stopped coming. Conversations grew awkward and strained. Even his family, once a source of comfort, was distant, unsure how to bridge the gap. One afternoon, Adam found himself alone, staring at an old photo of himself. The boy smiling back felt like a ghost, a memory slipping through his fingers. Tears welled up. The urge to run, to escape, to reclaim his old self was overwhelming. But Rachel's presence was never far, her voice soft but firm reminding him, "This is your new reality." The evening settled quietly over the city, painting the sky in shades of deep purple and gold. Adam sat curled on his bed, clutching a soft blanket to his chest as the emotions swirling inside threatened to overwhelm him. He thought about the boy he had been, carefree, confident in his skin, unaware of the storm that was about to engulf his life. Now, that boy felt distant, like a fading echo from another world. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he whispered to the dark room. Who am I really? Am I still me? Or just a shadow of who I was? The reflection in the mirror mocked him, a delicate face framed by long eyelashes and soft curls, the painted lips barely concealing the turmoil beneath. Suddenly, Rachel entered quietly, sitting beside him. Her hand was warm as it rested on his shoulder, grounding him. I know it's hard, she said softly, but you're stronger than you think. This change, it's a part of you now. Adam's sobs softened, and for the first time, he allowed himself to lean on her, to accept the fragile comfort she offered. In that quiet moment, Adam understood the truth he had been resisting. Some parts of him were lost forever, but others were blossoming, fragile, uncertain, but real. He closed his eyes, letting the tears fall, knowing the journey ahead would be long and uncertain. The room felt heavy with silence as Adam and Rachel sat together, the night wrapping around them like a fragile shield. The tears had dried, but the ache inside remained, a raw, aching wound beneath the surface. Rachel's voice broke the quiet. You've come so far, Adam. This isn't the end. It's a beginning. Adam looked up, searching her eyes for truth. But what if I never find myself again? She smiled gently, brushing a stray lock of hair from his face. Maybe who you find is someone new. Someone stronger. For the first time, Adam felt a flicker of hope ignite within the darkness. The transformation was no longer just something being done to him, it was becoming a part of him. He touched his face, tracing the smooth skin and soft contours. The girl in the mirror wasn't just a mask anymore. She was real. The journey was far from over, but in that quiet moment, Adam made a choice. To face the future, uncertain and challenging as it was, with courage. He wasn't just losing who he was. He was becoming who he needed to be. Standing at the crossroads of my identity, I faced the hardest choice, to embrace this new self or fight desperately to reclaim the past. The days after the breaking point were a strange limbo. Adam found himself trapped between two realities, the fading memories of who he had been and the fragile new identity Rachel was nurturing. Each morning, the reflection in the mirror grew more familiar and less foreign, yet the old self whispered from the shadows, begging for release. Rachel remained a steady presence, her voice both soothing and commanding. You have two choices, she told him one evening as they sat by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky. Run back to what you were, or step fully into who you are becoming. Adam's heart pounded. The freedom to choose felt like a cruel joke. To push him further, Rachel took him to a crowded mall, a test of his new identity. Walking through the throng of shoppers, Adam felt every eye on him. Some smiled warmly, others stared, and a few whispered cruel words. But with Rachel at his side, he held his head a little higher, each step a silent rebellion against fear. The mall was a bustling maze of colors, noises, and faces, a perfect place to test the fragile new identity Adam was beginning to inhabit. The cool air conditioning mingled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and sweet pastries from nearby cafes. People hurried past, wrapped up in their own worlds, but Adam felt their gazes linger on him, some curious, others judgmental. Rachel's hand rested lightly on his back, a silent anchor as they navigated through the crowd. Adam's heart pounded, every step both terrifying and exhilarating. They stopped at a cosmetics counter, where Rachel encouraged Adam to try on a bold lipstick shade. The brush glided over his lips with practiced ease, and the vibrant color transformed his smile into something confident, radiant. "Look at you," Rachel said, eyes gleaming. "You're stunning." Adam caught his reflection in the mirror. A beautiful girl, yes, but also someone who had fought for this moment. Suddenly, voices caught his attention. A group of teenagers whispered behind their hands, their eyes widening in surprise and amusement. "Is that Adam?" One whispered loudly enough to be heard. A wave of panic rushed over him. He glanced at Rachel, who squeezed his hand reassuringly. "You're stronger than their words," she said softly. Adam took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and held his head high. For the first time, he felt the stirrings of true acceptance. Later that evening, alone in his room, Adam sat before the mirror. The soft glow of the bedside lamp illuminated his face, highlighting the delicate makeup and the gentle curve of his jaw. He traced his reflection with trembling fingers, whispering, "Who am I now?" The question no longer felt like a threat, but a beginning. The days after the mall trip felt like a whirlwind of emotions. Adam found himself caught between exhilaration and doubt, acceptance and fear. The world outside was vast and unpredictable, but the mirror at home remained a constant, reflecting a new truth he was still struggling to fully grasp. Each morning, he practiced walking a little taller, speaking a little softer, learning the delicate art of femininity Rachel was teaching him. Her guidance was patient but firm, always pushing him toward a future he couldn't yet see clearly. One afternoon, Adam met a boy named Eli at a small cafe. Eli was kind and gentle, with eyes that seemed to see past the surface. They talked for hours, sharing stories and laughter. For the first time, Adam felt a connection that wasn't defined by fear or control, but by genuine understanding. Eli's words lingered long after they parted. "You're beautiful inside and out." Yet, despite these moments of hope, the pull of his old life remained strong. Memories of past joys, friendships, and freedoms haunted him, whispering of a time before transformation. Rachel's influence loomed large, reminding him daily that escape was not an option. "You belong here now," she told him softly. "This is your new life." One evening, overwhelmed by the weight of his journey, Adam broke down. Tears streamed freely as he voiced his deepest fears. "Will I ever be free? Will I ever be me again?" Rachel held him close, her touch both comforting and possessive. "Maybe you is changing," she whispered. "And maybe that's okay." The room was quiet except for the soft sound of rain tapping against the window pane. Adam sat curled up on his bed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly of lavender, Rachel's favorite scent. The night felt heavy, pressing down on him like an unseen weight. His mind raced with memories and doubts. The boy he had been seemed like a distant echo, a shadow slipping further away with each passing day. Yet, the girl reflected in the mirror was not entirely foreign. She was part of him, fragile but real. Rachel entered the room quietly, her footsteps barely audible. She sat beside him, brushing a stray lock of hair behind his ear. Her touch was gentle, but her voice carried the steady command he had come to both fear and need. "You don't have to run anymore," she said softly. "You're safe here with me." Adam looked into her eyes full of strength, control, and a strange tenderness. It was as if she was both the storm and the calm after. In that moment, Adam understood the truth he had been avoiding. The choice was no longer about escape or resistance. It was about surrender, surrendering to a new identity that was simultaneously imposed and born from within. He closed his eyes, letting the tears fall freely. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the loss, the fear, and the fragile hope intertwined in his journey. When he opened his eyes, the reflection staring back was no longer a stranger. It was a promise, a beginning. Adam whispered to himself, "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I will face it. As her. As me." The morning sun poured gently through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the room. Adam, or rather, the girl he was becoming, stirred awake, the soft sheets whispering around her. The scent of fresh flowers on the bedside table mingled with the faint perfume Rachel always wore. She sat up slowly, tracing her fingers along the smooth curve of her cheek in the mirror. The face looking back was delicate and serene, framed by loose curls that fell softly over her shoulders. It was still her in a way, but also someone new. Rachel had taught her to cherish these quiet moments, to nurture this fragile new identity with patience and care. She carefully applied light makeup, choosing soft pinks and subtle highlights that enhanced her features without masking them. Each stroke was a small act of acceptance, a step toward owning this new self. Later, she stepped outside, the breeze teasing the hem of her floral dress. The world seemed different, sharper, more vivid, and simultaneously intimidating. Neighbors greeted her with warm smiles, a few commenting on how pretty she looked. Each compliment settled like a balm on her bruised soul, filling her with a cautious hope. As she walked, the memories of her past life flickered, but no longer consumed her. The path ahead was unknown, but for the first time in a long while, it felt possible to walk it with her head held high. The sunlight warmed her skin as she walked down the familiar streets, each step a quiet rebellion against the fears that had once held her captive. The soft sway of her dress, the gentle click of her heels on the pavement, all new sensations that mingled uneasily with the memories of the boy she had been. Passing by the corner bakery, a small bell chimed as she entered. The sweet scent of fresh bread and pastries wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. The baker, an elderly woman with kind eyes, smiled warmly. "Good morning, dear. You look radiant today." Her cheeks flushed, but a genuine smile spread across her lips. "Thank you," she replied softly. Outside, the world was a mixture of acceptance and subtle judgment. Some passers-by offered friendly nods, while others glanced with curious or skeptical eyes. Each interaction was a test, a moment to assert her new identity or retreat into old fears. At a nearby park, she sat on a bench, watching children play and couples stroll hand in hand. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she could be happy, free, and fully herself. Yet, beneath the surface, the struggle continued. The transformation was not merely physical, but deeply emotional. She wrestled with questions of identity, longing, and the meaning of self. Who am I really? She wondered. Am I still the boy I once was, or have I truly become someone new? Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket. It was Rachel. "I'm coming over," the message read. "We need to talk." Her heart quickened. Whatever the conversation, it was sure to shape the next chapter of her life. Rachel arrived home, and Adam waited nervously, a mix of hope and fear swirling inside him. When their eyes met, a silent moment passed that spoke volumes. Rachel said softly, "It's time to live your life in this new way. I'm here with you, no matter what." Taking a deep breath, Adam gathered the courage to speak his truth. "I'm scared, but I'm ready. Ready to accept who I am. Whatever happens, I want to move forward, to live my true life." Rachel held his hand and smiled gently. "You are so beautiful, inside and out. This journey is yours alone." Adam looked into the mirror, seeing the girl he had become, far from the old world, looking toward a new future. His face no longer held just pain but hope and strength. "I will write my own story," Adam whispered, "and this time it's for me. Whatever comes, I will be true to myself." Rachel squeezed his hand firmly. And I will always be by your side. They looked into each other's eyes, ready for a new beginning, ready for a new identity.